Welcome to Love Yourself, the podcast where we break down the reasons why you aren't losing weight and help you discover confidence, self-worth, and resilience all along the way. Weight loss isn't a knowledge problem, it's a thinking problem, and I'm here to show you how to lose weight with your brain, not another diet plan. So as you listen, notice what resonates with you, and if something clicks or you want to go deeper, I would love for you to book a call with me right after the episode. Welcome back to Love Yourself Thin podcast. I'm Dara, and this is episode, Should You Try a GLP-1? The question nobody's actually answering. Okay, so today we're talking about something I get asked about constantly. GLP-1 medications. Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, Zepbound, whatever name you've heard. I know a lot of you are curious. Some of you are already on one. Some of you are scared of it. And some of you feel like taking it would be cheating somehow, even though deep down you know your relationship with food is emotional, not just physical. So I'm not going to tell you what to do today. What I am going to do is give you the real research from real doctors, some who love these medications, some who have real concerns, and then I want to bring you to the actual question, what you should really be asking underneath all of it. Because whether or not you ever take one of these medications, there's a much bigger question you still have to answer. So my goal for this episode is to help you do what therapists and life coaches do, is help you to take yourself out of the emotional aspect of a problem, to be able to get some clarity, to be objective, and to look at what is really the thing that I need to look at from a place of objectivity instead of being so attached to it. So if you're ready to go, let's take on something that I would say has the internet really heated up about. Okay, so first thing I want to talk about is, what do GLPs actually do? So recently I saw one of my sons and he was on his phone watching a YouTube video. And I was like, oh, what are you learning about? He's like, I'm learning about GLP-1s. And I said, why are you learning about GLP-1s? And he said, because I just hear about it all the time. And so here's my 19-year-old curious about what they are. So if you're like him, let's just break it down really easily. So these are the plain facts. No judgment, no agenda. So GLP-1 medications work on receptors throughout your brain and body. And one of those most talked about effects is reducing what's now commonly called food noise. So that constant mental chatter about food that we talked about back in episode 264. So I want to be fair here because this isn't a takedown episode, right? Multiple studies have shown real, measurable reductions in food noise and in food-related activity in the brain's reward centers when people take these medications. So for a lot of women, that quiet is genuinely life-changing. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that's not real and that's not valuable, okay? But here's the tension I want you to sit with for the rest of the episode. Quieting the noise is not the same thing as resolving what was causing the noise in the first place. Let me say that again. So quieting that noise, which the medications will do, it's like the mute button, right? Or the pause button. It's not the same as resolving why did we have that problem in the first place. So those are two different things, and I think we owe it to ourselves to actually understand the difference. So if the medication can quiet the noise, does that mean it solves the problem? So I went looking for real answers here, and I found that even doctors don't fully agree with each other. So I want to talk about some of the things that I found so that we can open up this conversation. One of the things that I love about being a life coach and working with women is that if we are suffering with shame, so if we keep something really shameful, oh, I shouldn't talk about this, this is really embarrassing, then what happens to us when we live that way? We're constantly in fear. We have lots of danger, and life feels really scary. Okay. So recently, I won't share exactly what happened, but recently I was having some very shameful thoughts, or I felt a lot of shame about something in my life. I felt, oh, this is embarrassing. I don't really like this. And I was really perseverating about it and thinking about it so much. And I decided to bring it up with my daughter. And it was about some body stuff. And I was like, I said, I'm going to be really vulnerable with you right now. This is something that's like really heavy on my heart. And it was like, truly, I felt so like ashamed about some of the things that I was thinking. And I shared it with her and she started laughing. And she's like, Mom, that's a ridiculous thought. Why would you even think that? And I was so attached to my story. And she just started laughing at me, and she wasn't being rude, but she was like, Mom, I would never think that way. I would never even consider it that way. But because I was precious with my story. So I just wonder if that's you. Are you so attached to your story, you're so precious to it, that you aren't able to look at it with new, fresh eyes? And that's why I love podcasting. That's why I love coaching. That's why I love doing my master's degree, because I'm now able to look at things in a different way. And in fact, I'm just going off for just a second from my script. But one of the things that I learned as I am learning about emotional eating with a psychological perspective, there's this difference between expressive suppression. So these are people who push their feelings down, ignore their feelings, keep them to themselves, self-isolate, push friends away, use food to be quiet. So how often do you do that? Versus cognitive reappraisal. That's looking at a situation differently, finding a new meaning, and processing rather than suppressing. So this is where a lot of the research is going with emotional eating. So if we use food to fill a void we don't know how to fill on our own. So emotional eating is not about food. Emotional eating is about how people manage, suppress, avoid, or get stuck in negative emotions. And then not unless they root in that childhood adversity and they look at their sleep and all of that they can actually get real change. So these are just pieces of the puzzle, right? This is us looking at the bigger picture. So it's hard not to get caught up in a doctor talking about GLP-1s and you think, well, it's a doctor and they say you have to do it. But you can go and look at 7 other doctors, 20 other doctors who say GLP-1s are not the solution. So it's very confusing. And my job right now through this podcast is to start, it's like a kaleidoscope, right? When we have a kaleidoscope, we can change it around and we can see all the different ways of looking at it can help us start coming into our own life experience, our own ways of looking at something. And so just like a good debate, when you go to a good debate, you say, they have a good point. Oh, that's a good point. They can bring up different points and you're able to be objective about it. Okay. Are you hearing? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Okay. So I'm going to be showing different sides. We're like looking at the kaleidoscope in a different way. So if the medication can quiet the noise, does that mean that it solves the problem? So I went looking for real answers here. I found that even the doctors don't fully agree with each other. I want to talk through what I found. So real doctors are split, and that's useful. Okay. So I looked through into 5 different medical and clinical perspectives on this, and I want to walk you through all 5 because I think the disagreement itself tells us something important. So as I go through these 5, what do you notice? Dr. Andres Acosta out of the Mayo Clinic found that GLP-1s work beautifully for what he calls hungry gut patients, people whose eating is driven by genuine physical hunger signals. But for true emotional eaters, he found that a completely different medication combination actually outperforms GLP-1, specifically because it treats the underlying anxiety or depression driving the eating. So his point was direct. GLP-1s don't do that. Interesting. Next, we go to Nina Crawley. She's a registered dietitian and health psychologist, and she makes an important validating point. She argues that food noise is real and biological, not a personal failure, and that shifting the conversation away from blame is genuinely important for people who spent years thinking that it was a willpower issue. And then Dr. Michelle Cardell, she represents the more optimistic clinical mainstream. Her research and clinical work point to food noise reduction as one of the most consistently reported benefits patients describe. I do want to mention in fairness that she has industry ties to a pharmaceutical company, so you'll have that full picture as you weigh their perspective. Now, then there's an academic review published in the Journal of Psoriasis, and this one is important. It found that appetite suppression from these medications may reverse once you stop taking them. So if there hasn't been underlying behavioral change alongside the medication. So there's the danger. If you stop the medication, you stop getting the results you want. And finally, a research review specifically on eating disorders found something I think matters a lot for the women listening to this podcast. It found that appetite suppression may actually reinforce rigid control or that perfectionist patterns in some patients. So you know me, I have the 12-step perfectionist recovery program. So is that going to make you more rigid and more all or nothing thinking? So if you've been with me for a while, perfectionism is one of the biggest patterns I work on with clients. This is worth taking seriously. So I'm handing you a full honest file today. I could go on and on. There's so many different ones, but those are 5 real perspectives. And I'm not steering you toward a verdict. I want you to sit with it all. So where does that leave you? Here's what I think matters more than any single doctor's opinion. Here's something I say to my clients all the time. Trying to control your life like a cassette tape, so press play, rewind, pause, fast forward, is actually a form of resistance to experiencing the biggest version of your life. And here's why I bring that up in the GLP-1 episode specifically. So whether or not you take the medication doesn't actually change this deeper question. A GLP-1 can quiet that noise. It can reduce your desire. It can genuinely help you eat less, feel less obsessed, feel more in control day to day. But it cannot answer the question of why that noise was controlling you in the first place. That work is still there, waiting, medication or not. So what do you actually do with all of this? I don't want to leave you with just information. I want to leave you with a way forward. So this isn't a yes or no episode. I'm not going to tell you to take a GLP-1. I'm not going to tell you not to. What I want to give you instead is permission to ask better questions before you decide whether or not there's ever a prescription involved. Ask yourself honestly, am I trying to silence a signal or am I trying to understand it? Ask yourself, if I took this medication tomorrow and the food noise disappeared completely, would the rest of my life actually feel resolved or would something else just get louder? Now, here's what I believe and what I've seen over and over in my own work. And more you brace your life now with real emotional tools, the happier you become without ever needing to lose the weight first as some kind of permission slip for happiness. So before we close this episode, I wanted to ask you a few more questions and I wanted to make a few more connections of the dots. Remember when you were little and they had those connect the dots and there was a bunch of dots and then you had to go from one to another and next thing you knew it was a dinosaur or a car or a doll. I want to ask a few more questions before we say goodbye about, is a GLP-1 the answer? So I want you to ask yourself, what would you be able to believe about yourself once you got to your goal weight? So let's imagine we have a future machine, like a time machine. And we go into the future and you 100% reached your goal of 135 pounds or whatever it was, and you look in the mirror and you look at yourself, what can you say about yourself at that moment? I am proud of me. I'm accomplished. I have done such a good job. I am more thrilled than ever. I now can believe that I'm good enough, whatever that is. Okay? So when you think about what you can believe about yourself once you get to that weight, what is stopping you from being able to believe that about yourself right now? And why does that weight have so much of a definition of what you believe about you? And I just from another perspective. So people who take anti-depression or anxiety pills, basically what that does, it makes them more neutral, the emotions. So the emotions, their highs aren't so high and their lows aren't so low. But one of the things that they found about this is that it doesn't actually help them resolve why the emotions are so up and down in the first place. And one of the most effective ways to help with anxiety and depression is letting yourself feel all of those different feelings. Now, food is a way to quiet noise. So I always say that there are two reasons we're overweight. Overhunger, which is you're constantly turning to food, so snacking, going through the kitchen, getting treats, all of that. And the second one is over desire. So that is you obsessing about the chocolate, the treats, the donuts, all of those things, the cookies. So I want you to think about, who are you in that scenario? Are you the over desire person, always thinking about the flour and the sugar, like the treats? Or are you the over hunger, just constantly eating? And now this is the most important question. Why? Why are you giving the thinking about food, the eating the food, all of that so much time? And in my experience of working with women, hundreds, if not thousands of women over the last 5 years, one of the main reasons that they focus so much on food is that food meant love. Food was that substitute for the love, the nurture, the unconditional acceptance, all of that they craved so badly for. So will taking a GLP-1 fill that void? So just like I said at the beginning, this is really important conversation. Quieting the noise is not the same thing as resolving what was causing the noise in the first place. Those are two different things. And I think we owe it to ourselves to actually understand the difference. So, are you ready to open that door of self-discovery and honesty? And so if you're sitting here considering a GLP-1, whether you're scared of it, curious about it, or already on one and still feeling stuck, I want to offer you something. Book a free diagnosis call with me. Not to talk you into or out of medication. That's actually not my job at all. I want to help you find out what's your actual issue with weight loss, the real one, underneath the surface, getting to the root of why do you keep turning to the food? Why you keep going to overhunger or over desire? Because here's the truth. So many women spend months, years trying to solve the wrong problem. They chase the medication, the diet, the plan without ever finding out what's actually driving the pattern. Stop wasting your time solving the wrong problem. Book your free diagnosis call today and let's find out what's really going on. And make sure you do it right away because spaces actually are limited. As you're leaving this episode, I want you to take a moment and notice what stood out for you. What did you learn about yourself? What felt true? And where are you ready to start thinking differently? Remember, this work isn't about doing more. It's about understanding how your brain is working right now and learning how to shift it in a way that's always going to support you. And you don't have to do that alone. If you're ready to stop second guessing yourself, stop feeling stuck, and start creating real momentum in your life, I would love to help you. You can book a call with me and we'll look at what's really going on for you and what your next step can be. I can't wait to talk to you.